Hello everyone and welcome back to Always Watching. Today I'm continuing my coverage of the Tribeca Film Festival with the documentary An Eye for an Eye. And this is by far one of the best, if not the best, documentary I've seen so far. Briefly, the documentary follows Tahereh, a woman who must negotiate with her in-laws to survive. After spending 14 years in prison for killing her husband, her in-laws are given the option to either execute her or forgive her for a price. I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't know whether or not she would be forgiven, and there are moments in this film where I thought they were documenting someone's execution. The film does an extraordinary job of balancing both points of views. They follow Tahereh and her family as well as her husband's family. Tahereh killed her drug-addicted, abusive husband after being denied a divorce. What makes this crime unusual is the way he was killed. The strength to kill and dispose of a man that size led investigators to believe that there was a third party involved. However, because Tahereh took full credit for the murder, there was no need to investigate. Tahereh's verdict comes at the peak of Iran's new revolution, where the country treatment of women is really being scrutinized. Tahereh's husband beat her to an inch of her life, and from what I gathered of the documentary, his family never denies the drug allegations or the abuse. However, culturally, because he's a man, and more so because she was his wife, they blame her for it. Her in-laws are frustrated because in part they don't believe her story, and they also feel the need to save their own honor. Even if his family acknowledges that Tahereh was in the right, they can't really do so without acknowledging that she had every right to kill him. So much of her in-laws' frustrations actually lie with her children. They hoped that her son and daughters would take initiative and kill their mother to honor their father. Instead, they've done the opposite. This is such an emotional film. The way the filmmakers were able to follow them inside the home, capture all these candid conversations, you become emotionally invested, not just in her well-being, but also her family's. Follow her children throughout the film, working with activists, trying their best to raise the money. The documentary did a great job of not just introducing us to Tahereh and her family, but also trying to get us to understand why this ultimatum brings out the worst in each family. The state could make the decision to just incarcerate her forever or execute her. Instead, they give that power to the victim's family. And it becomes more complicated because the victim's family is operating out of grief and anger. And I'm thinking if you applied this rule to any other country, giving the power of life or death to the victim's family, most families would probably want to punish the individual that hurt their loved ones, regardless of how they felt about the crime. His family remembers him more as a brother, as a son, and it doesn't excuse his behavior, but what the film does very well is it sort of scrutinizes the state. This was a crime that was entirely preventable had she been granted the divorce. It feels like she's being punished, not because she killed him, but because in their view, she had failed as a wife. And I think for the state to not have intervened and then give this burden to the victims' families is absolutely absurd. In order for her in-laws to forgive her, they really need to feel it. Like, this has to come from the heart. And you could tell that this was not a burden that they want placed on them. Despite the changes over time, a lot of donors were reluctant to help because they don't really see what the big deal was. As far as they're concerned, him being a drug addict, him beating her, is not enough for her to want a divorce, let alone kill him. As far as these donors are concerned in the state, once she got married, she became his property, and he was free to do what he wanted. Overall, I think this movie is worth a watch. I thought the film powerfully used this case to highlight how the state systematically maintains women's lower status. So if you're at the festival, it's definitely worth a watch. And until next time.